We're breaking down the biggest X factor for each team in the AFC and NFC South today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league. The Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'd like to thank you for making Locked On NFL Scouting your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much.
Joe, happy Tuesday. Happy, at least for my team, rookies report to training camp day to you. Is that the same for you as well?
Yeah, the rookies are there.
Wow.
Week early.
We are here. Training camp reporting has begun.
Right. Well, it'll be quiet until like the vets get there, right? It's like almost like the rookies show up. You don't even know what they're really doing. They're like finding their way around campus.
It's going to be quiet for another 9 days.
Yeah.
Well,
it's
still technically here.
We say that. We got a Hopkins deal, right? He signs with Tennessee.
Going to sign somewhere in the next week.
You got running backs across the world that are just mad.
Angry at the world.
Be a better conversation for tomorrow. But...
Yeah, I guess we should save that for tomorrow. I was going to ask you a question, but we'll save that. Did you see who was it? I'm going to float around and produce this thing. I will make sure I give proper credit here to this suggestion.
Oh, great. Is it about the line? Is it, you're going to talk about classification?
Seth Walder.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Put the running backs, tight ends, and wide receivers in one category as skill players for franchise tag.
AKA nobody's getting franchise tagged if you're a running back.
Or tight end. Because those two salary ceilings are 12 to $15 million is like upper first percentile of running backs and tight ends, and you're suddenly going to throw them into the franchise tag bucket with, I guess they'd all be wide receivers, right? Because it's the top.
Yes, it would be all receivers.
Yeah, it's just the receiver tag would be the running back and tight end tag. And then somebody else said and I think it was a player said, just get rid of the franchise tag for everybody except quarterbacks with an XCBA. Because that's all you really use it for anyway.
I don't know. I disagree with that. I mean, tight ends and running backs get it too.
Right. I think there's a lot of value to the franchise. I think the franchise tag is the most lopsided tool in the CBA in favor of the teams, in my mind.
It is, but it's also for these small market teams that draft a good player and then they bolt. It gives them some ability to maintain control. I don't know what the right answer there is, but I just feel like I don't know that helps the problem because running backs are just not going to get franchise tagged, and then they're just going to be in these standstill negotiations.
Wouldn't you rather just not get franchise tagged than get franchise tagged and have these guys like Le'Veon Bell and Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley say, I'm not going to sign my tag. I'm not playing this year.
How'd that go for Lev Bell?
Well, we have two guys that are teasing that they might be on the precipice of doing the same thing.
Well,
so losing a year of tenure and not playing in the midst of your physical peak, I think axing the franchise tag and in formality by putting it in a bucket would help that.
Not a math guy.
Would not have that situation.
Not a math guy, but a $12 million salary is $12 million more than a $0 salary.
Yeah, it's like if you're a business, right? And
you
take all your revenue and you don't count your expenses. And you say, oh, not counting our expenses, we're a profitable company, right? Like,
not great.
It's not how it works.
X Factors is the theme of our conversation today. We're going to weave together these divisional X Factor conversations with these, market conversations like we did yesterday with quarterbacks. But today we're talking AFC South, NFC South, X Factors, the biggest unknown, the biggest incomplete aspect of the football team that's going to be defining in the season. We talk about the NFL, it's a competitive league. the difference is often in the margins, and I think we're going to focus a lot of time today on the margins for these 8 teams in the AFC and NFC South.
Are we counting rookies in this? I have some teams where I definitively have an incomplete evaluation player, which is a net zero player.
Yeah.
In some cases. But then there's rookies, which are a definitive zero, regardless of what your draft status is, because you haven't played any snaps yet.
I have 1 rookie listed across the 8 teams.
Okay. So you can include rookies then.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So why don't we do them in the order in which they drafted this year?
All right.
So,
you stay on top of that. I've got answers down. You tell me what team.
I can tell you the Houston Texans picked 2nd and 3rd.
Okay. Well, I have my answer for the Texans.
Go ahead.
For me, with the Houston Texans, it's Derek Stingley. And Derek Stingley is an immensely talented football player, but we have not seen any sustained stretches of dominant play, right? Like he had the 1 good season at LSU, and it was kind of a bumpy ride. Last year with Houston was a bumpy ride.
Last 2 years at LSU were bumpy rides.
And what I don't think is getting enough attention, but will get attention soon, is that they picked Derek Stingley over Sauce Gardner, right? Like that was the thing that happened. And, based on the way that people are putting together cornerback lists, if you don't think Sauce Gardner's like top 3 right now, then you just don't watch football.
Hate Sauce Gardner?
Yeah, I hate him so much.
Quinnen Williams.
A 1-year player I thought was a top 10 player at his position in the NFL after 1 season. I hate him so much.
Were big mad at you.
Yeah, and I just ignored it and did what I do. I went to the golf course and let people yell at each other on Twitter while I'm, trying to get birdies and pars.
Can you just tell me one thing that Sauce Gardner does better than Derek Stingley, though?
Kyle,
it's my favorite running joke that we have.
And there's not many people that would understand the joke, but I do, and it's a very good one. It's Derek Stingley. And here's the thing, Kyle, right? This is a build, right, for the Houston Texans. And I know that we look at a lot of what they did this year in the draft and all that stuff. It's all great. But you also had 2 first-round picks in 2021 or 2022. And right now you have Derek Stingley and Kenyon Green. And if Kenyon Green's just an okay starting guard and Derek Stingley winds up kind of being a flop at corner, well, then I don't think you're going to love the return on those 2 top 15 selections, including a top 3 pick. So I need to see it from Derek Stingley this year and for a number of years moving forward.
I was sitting here feeling like me getting all cute was really going to hit the big time here, and then you expanded it out. I have their top 15 picks from the last 2 years. Like CJ Stroud, Will Anderson, Derek Stingley, and Kenyon Green. We know next to nothing about that collective group of 4, and they're all top 15 picks. So if the Texans are going to be good this year, I have a feeling that group, that foursome of players, is going to have a large part of the reason why. If they're not good this year, boy, oh boy, can we start to get a little concerned, because I have a feeling those players, 3 of which play critical positions at the NFL stage.
Yeah.
If you're not being able to put it together, then we're going to get a little apprehensive. So for me, it was just the low-hanging fruit of like, man, this team has picked a lot early lately. What can you show for it? And if it starts to come together this year, this team will probably start to come together a little bit this year, and they'll outperform some of the expectations. And we'll figure out when we do our live stream tonight, if we pick more Houston Texans games, we'll figure out more of what our expectation is for the Texans on the show. 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, playoffpredictors.com. We're on the YouTube channel. So hit subscribe. Come see us.
8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Locked On NFL Scouting YouTube channel. Subscribe, hit the bell, and come join us for us predicting games. We're going to do it tonight, which is Tuesday, and again, probably Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the plan.
Yeah, we'll be busy this week, so hope you're busy with us.
Yeah, don't miss it. In fact, don't miss your opportunity to head on over to FanDuel and take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 that you can spend betting everything from the money line to the over-under to who you think is going to hit the first home run. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you can get paid instantly. There's simply no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball.
You deserve so many flowers for how you segued there. It's not even funny. That was amazingly done.
Thank you.
Bravo.
Yeah.
Are we going to continue in the... Oh, we got to do in draft order now, huh?
Well, we already goofed it. The Panthers
Colts.
picked number 1, Kyle. So
let's do the AFC South in the order in which they draft.
All right.
So the Colts are next because they picked at 4. And we know who they picked. They picked Anthony Richardson. And I can keep track of 4 picks simultaneously. Tennessee's next and then the Jaguars.
All right, I went first on the last team. Why don't you take this one?
Okay, so the Indianapolis Colts, for me, let me go around here and pull up my notes. When I look at this team, I have to go to the cornerback position with the unceremonious departure of Isaiah Rodgers, who was, it's a super unfortunate situation. We're still going to wait for more information to come out other than, what's already been reported. But you have Juju Brents and Darius Rush as 2 height, weight, speed, physical rookie cornerbacks. Dallas Flowers right now. Those are your top 3 outside cornerbacks. Kenny Moore, stud in the nickel. He made our top 10 nickel corners in the NFL. I think he was top 3 for both of us consensus. Stud player. Not concerned about the nickel. But I am concerned about... you can expand this to include effectively the entire secondary, where you have
right.
Rodney Thomas is a second-year player out of the Ivy League who had a couple of picks last year but was up and down, and Nick Cross was a mid-round pick out of University of Maryland as a second-year player, and it has not come together for him yet either. Julian Blackmon we feel good about as an adequate starter, but we have a whole lot of questions and a whole lot of youth in the secondary. So if I were to point to a group, I would say it's the secondary. If I had to point to a player, I would say it's Juju Brents because of the expectation that we have for him as a player based on how we got to know him as a player, his film resume, his performances in big stages, where he was drafted. Brents has to be a big-time player for the Colts this year if they're going to be able to have an effective pass defense, because I really don't love a lot of what they have in pass rush to help mitigate this group either.
It's a good answer, Kyle. And in fact, I wrote down a couple of things for every team just to make sure that there wasn't redundancy between our answers. And that was my backup option was the young corners, especially
and you're
with Isaiah Rodgers.
You're going to say Bernard Raymond.
Yeah, I think you have to. I think this combination, you have 2 incomplete evaluations on the offensive line, one at left tackle and Bernard Raymond, which I think is clearly the most important, but also whatever's going to happen at right guard. I think there's potentially a competition between Danny Pinter, Will Fries, those types of guys. But regardless of
throw every other offensive lineman that you have on the roster into that competition.
Sure. But in right guard and left tackle, right? And look, maybe Blake Freeland can make some noise there at left tackle. I think that's probably unlikely. Thought Bernard Raymond got better throughout last season, but I think with a completely unsettled situation at right guard and a lot to prove at left tackle, this offensive line is front and center for me, especially with a young quarterback in Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor, who's your bell cow. That's the guy that you're going to lean on, and obviously his success is going to be largely predicated on that front 5 in front of him. So I look at that left tackle, that right guard spot, and feel like that's where my biggest concern is. And, that's where I think the margins can be for Indy, especially when you consider, Quentin Nelson has been awesome, but I think most people would agree that the last couple of years haven't been vintage Quentin Nelson. And now he's playing against a very incomplete player at left tackle. And then you love Ryan Kelly and Braden Smith at center and right tackle. And, how much do you take away from their effectiveness by having an unknown at right guard? So I'm curious to see how those 2 positions unfold for Indy.
Okay, so the Tennessee Titans picked 3rd in the draft order for the AFC South teams, which, to be fair, that is how we had it laid out on the right 3rd, was AFC South we're going to do first. So I reserved my right to say that I was not blatantly wrong. The Titans. First of all, can we agree DeAndre Hopkins is a quality starter at this stage in his career?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's part of what we've done. And we did the film back in March.
Yeah, when it was first reported that this was over.
Yeah, we felt pretty good about what he showed on tape. And did you see this? I don't know who tweeted it out. It might have been Schefter, but like Mike Vrabel was
the leading touchdown.
Yeah, most receiving touchdowns in the NFL, like as part of the Titans, and he's the coach and he played linebacker.
Right.
So like needed it, right? You needed Hop. I think Green Bay should have been more in on this conversation. But yeah, big addition for them. Good addition.
Definitely changes the shape of the skill group. I think you feel a lot better having a second accomplished starter alongside Derrick Henry. For me, I think you could pick any one of the 3 pass catchers that are second-year players, and you'd be right. Like, you'd have a legitimate argument to make between Chig Okonkwo at tight end, Kyle Phillips in the slot, and Treylon Burks as their first-round wide receiver pick from last year. Even with the emergence of Hop, I'm going to go with Treylon Burks as the big X factor for this offense, because if he ends up being a dynamic player who is challenging to cover, I think that really changes the math proposition that you're expecting when you get the Titans, because otherwise what you're going to do is you're going to get heavy boxes and you're going to get safety rolled over to help against Nuke, and you're going to play outside leverage with the corner, you're going to play inside leverage with the safety, and you're going to bracket him, and you're going to say, okay, the other guys are going to have to beat us one-on-one. And if you have to have somebody that can beat you one-on-one, and where you drafted Treylon Burks, to me, that's the critical player. That's the X factor, is Treylon Burks.
Yeah, I think it's a good answer, man. They needed Hop, but they also need Burks and Chig Okonkwo and Kyle Phillips to find themselves as well. Great answer. I'll go with the offensive line. Man, there's
surprise.
Question. The whole friggin' thing's a question mark. Even left tackle, Andre Dillard, never been a full-time starting left tackle in the NFL. Peter Skoronski's never played a down in the NFL.
Feel good about Daniel Brunskill?
I'll get there. At center, Aaron Brewer is the outlier of outliers, is like a 280-pound player that's going to center after playing guard, which probably is going to be his best position anyways, but he's got big shoes to fill there. Ben Jones, a great player for them for a long time. Daniel Brunskill, here he is, also his first season on the team, right? And they had a great offensive line coach there in San Francisco, so we'll see. He's obviously making a transition. And then, what's going on at right tackle with Nicholas Petit-Frere? I know he's got a suspension, right, that he's dealing with.
Six games.
So Jamarco Jones or Jalen Duncan or something like that. I don't know, man.
Raduns, like this is the third year in a row where it might be Dylan Raduns and he just can't close the deal. And
right, it's right there for him. Dylan Raduns has been on a damn platter for you for years.
It's a
you gotta take it. Jeez, man. So
yeah, and then Petit-Frere trying to get back up to speed after missing 6 weeks as a second-year player.
Right, dude. It's like you want to like the defense, and you're like, okay, Derrick Henry, DeAndre Hopkins, like Tannehill, maybe he can find himself, but it's like, man, this O-line's got to come together here for this to work.
Yep. And then you have Jacksonville. Why don't you go first with Jacksonville?
All right. Here I am back to the offensive line.
Luke Fortner.
Well,
left tackle, Anton Harrison.
I'll do the one thing. Well, Jaguars fans are going to yell at you because I think he's going to play right tackle. Remember, they didn't like when we said that. But it is Anton Harrison for me, Kyle. And like things were necessary when they drafted him, and then they got like really necessary with like with Cam Robinson as a suspension, right? Like,
yes,
like it's just a dicey situation. He's been pretty unreliable for them. And I think about Trevor
Lawrence.
Getting
a lot of money to be really unreliable.
A lot of money. I think this takes away the guaranteed money, though. So we'll see.
But regardless.
Yeah, I think this guy's a critical player, especially with Walker Little, who's, I think, come in and played well after some tough circumstances in college and even to start his NFL career. But, this is a player that they really need to come in and be excellent, right? I mean, you still have some other questions in the middle of this offensive line. And you got some fun skill players, but obviously protection is going to be critical. And Anton Harrison's going to be, I'm sure, the the main attraction for defensive coordinators of how they're going to attack the offensive line. It's going to put a lot of stress on Anton Harrison. He's got a big call to answer this year.
Okay. So offensive line notwithstanding, and Trevor Lawrence being a player who, how high he's going to reach into his ceiling being notwithstanding is an incomplete evaluation. We really need Trayvon Walker to be a thing this year too.
Mm-hmm.
What do you got behind Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker right now?
Not much. Chason.
Clavon Chason, Deshaun Dixon, rookie Yasir Abdullah, Jordan Smith. That's your pass rush room. Like low key, they really could have afforded to bring back DeJuan Smoot.
If he's healthy, right? No, he had that late injury.
So. Yeah, but just
still pass rushers out there, man. Yannick Ngakoue, come home, baby. Let's go.
That's a great point. I'm looking at this group and I'm like,
Carlos Dunlap, don't you like Florida?
If Trayvon Walker's kind of up and down, we got a really ugly looking outside pass rush group as far as what we know about these players right now. So we need Trayvon Walker as the first overall pick to realize some more of that potential. And I think that he will. I'm optimistic about it. But that, for me, is the other spot for Jacksonville aside of the offensive line.
All right, folks. The NFC South takes center stage right after Kyle and I get back from a very quick break.
So, John, I don't know if you know this, but the Panthers picked first overall.
Heard about it.
You could also make the argument that they organically picked ninth, and therefore that it was still right to go.
That was always the intent. Always. Yeah.
No doubt. Sorry we weren't clear with that communication. Now, the question is, as I sit here and I scroll down, Chicago organically got the first overall pick. They traded it to the Carolina Panthers.
So does that mean the Falcons are first?
No. Let's lean into the bit and let's go to the Panthers now.
All right.
Okay. Carolina, I think they've got a really good-looking offensive line. If you want to sit here and talk about right tackle with Cade Mays and Austin Corbett coming off the injury, we can go there if you'd like.
I have a.
Do you have something else?
No, yeah, I got something else for sure.
Good.
I'm going to stay away from the offensive line here with this division. I got other questions, but I think for Carolina, for me, X factors and not. This isn't necessarily. No, it isn't unknown. I'll just say it. It's this combination of Jonathan Mingo and Terrence Marshall for me, because I like the floor of a lot of their skill players and I like the roles that they can fill.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're looking for a guy that has a chance to be like a high volume go-to, no doubt about it, 100+ targets, it's probably one of those two guys with their youth and their size and their athletic potential, both of them. And Terrence Marshall made some big plays last season down the stretch, and obviously they've drafted Mingo pretty high, man, like top 40
in
pick.
The 40s.
They really liked him. You could tell. They Panthers always do great YouTube content through their team channel, and you saw like their draft stuff and like really definitely portrayed it as a player they really wanted. And so I think one of those two guys really emerging as a focal point for the offense, and that way you allow the likes of Adam Thielen and DJ Chark and Hayden Hurst to kind of fill in the blanks around them, I think would be really big for Bryce Young as he steps in this lineup. You know, he's probably going to lean on, some of those young guys that are with him to pair with and be the focal point of what they're going to do offensively for a number of years to come. And I think Marshall and Mingo at wide receiver are the guys that give you the best chance to be that.
I would agree with you. And I would even go so far as to include Adam Thielen in kind of the X factor component here, because how much does Thielen have left in the tank? He's a much different player than those other two, but he's kind of the household name of the wide receiver group right now for his NFL accolades. And there's been some regression there athletically. How much life can you continue to have?
Before we move on from the Panthers, though, quick follow-up, because on our live stream that we did last week, we talked about a Panthers player and Luke Combs concert and that, which one it was going to be.
Who was it?
Which one was going to be, shotgunning beers with Luke Combs on stage?
Bozeman.
The answer, Kyle, is none. Can you believe that?
The hell's Dave Tepper's problem?
Right, I don't. He brings live music to Charlotte, and then he's going to let division rivals, the Buccaneers, have players drink beers on stage with Luke Combs, and we can't get one? I don't know, man.
It's a little
questionable.
A little sus. No question for me who the incomplete evaluation X factor is for the Atlanta Falcons.
Go ahead.
It's Desmond Ridder, right?
Yeah, of course.
There's no question. I mean, this is a team that's one of the best offensive line in football from our assessment. You've got a bunch of top half of the first round picks in your skill group. You're in year 3 of an offense with an offensive-minded coach and Arthur Smith. They spent all the money on the defensive side of the ball. And they really just gave the keys to the car to Desmond Ridder and said, 4 games, you're our guy. We're going to lock you in. Okay. Go do it, young man. That for me, the story of the Falcons is going to start and finish with what Desmond Ridder does with this opportunity this year.
To give something different, I look at the linebacker tandem of Troy Anderson and Caden Ellis. Love the athleticism, love the upside. But both are pretty raw players, even with Caden Ellis getting the deal that he got. But Troy Anderson just was such a fun player at Montana State with all the positions he played, including like quarterback and running back, in addition to linebacker, and was like the conference player of the year on both sides of the football. But I think him stepping into this defense that's now coordinated by Ryan Nielsen and, really emerging, right, and solidifying that spot behind a revamped front and a revamped secondary, I think would be huge for the defense.
Which takes us to, where did New Orleans pick?
Well,
where did Tampa pick?
New Orleans organically didn't pick anywhere. They got the Dolphins pick through the Broncos, right?
Okay, so that was 29, but Tampa still,
they won the division, and they were a playoff team, so they organically picked last.
But they picked Kancey.
Yeah.
But when the South, we leaned into Carolina trading up to first and did them first. So we should do the actual order, which means Tampa Bay should be next.
Yeah. I have pass rush written down here, Kyle.
There's everything on the face of the planet for this team is applicable.
Right, but you only can pick one thing, right? So
go ahead. Go ahead.
To me, it's pass rush, man, where like, I don't know, you have Shaq Barrett, he's back, great, but what else? Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, hopefully the year 3 breakout happens. Anthony Nelson, I think you kind of know what he is. Kalijah Kancey is a rookie. Certainly pass rush was a big reason that you drafted him.
Vita Vea and Greg Gaines are nice, though. And they can both rush the pass a little bit.
Right? Yeah, I respect them, but like, I want to see this happen. We need someone to step up in a big way here on this front in terms of pass rush. We're also going to have to lean into simulated pressures, and that's probably okay if you're going to feature Devin White, but I think a lot about this pass rush.
Offensively, you have a second-year player in Rashad White. You have 2 second-year players and a rookie in the tight end room with K-Dot and Kokife and Payne Durham. I like that tight end room, but what the heck are you actually going to tangibly get this year? I thought Otten played pretty well. You've got, is it fair to say Mike Evans is regressing?
Wake me up when he doesn't get 1,000 yards.
Is it fair to say that Mike Evans is regressing?
Especially when he's going to have to go play with Baker Mayfield this year. He didn't got Tom throwing him the ball, man.
Like Chris Godwin has not reached the peak of what was it, a knee injury?
Yeah.
Like when he peaked before the knee injury, we haven't seen that version of Chris Godwin since. You've got 3 spots on the offensive line for rookie Cody Mauch, Luke Goedeke, Nick Leverett, Aaron Stinney, Robert Hainsey, Matt Filer, Justin Skule. It's the whole offense is a mess.
And the transition, right? Like, could you think of a bigger transition than Tom Brady to Baker Mayfield, throwing the football 800 times to maybe 70% of that, maybe 60% of
Joe,
that.
the rest of their running back room is Chase Edmonds and Keyshawn Vaughn. I'd probably try and throw it 800 times again. Why should I feel any better about this group's ability to run the football?
Maybe because Dave Canales is the OC and it's not
running game.
Byron Leftwich.
Running game is my answer to the X factor. You expand it out. Y'all got to be able to run the football, take some pressure off Baker Mayfield, and be a little bit more balanced offensively, and not average 2.8 yards per carry. That's not a real number, but it's not far off from what they actually did. I think it was 3.1.
For the team that brought us, who was that? Peyton Barber.
Peyton Barber, baby. We have the Mendoza line in football for running backs is the Peyton Barber line. Was it 250 touches and under
4 yards
under
touch.
4 yards per touch?
It's rare
250 touches and less than 1,000 yards.
You get that blend of opportunity and lack of production. It is an incredible thing.
So we have the Saints as the last team from where they picked in actuality and not from an organic standpoint. Where do you want to go with the Bucs, Joe? I have Paulson Adebo and second-year corner Alante Taylor is my X factor spot for them. Is that what you have?
It's one of the things I had down, so I can go somewhere else.
I did just want to confirm the Bucs did average 3.4 yards per carry last year and had 5 rushing touchdowns on the season.
5 rushing touchdowns.
5 rushing touchdowns on the season.
Wow. I'm sure every other team had at least 10.
And one of them came from Tom Brady. So,
all right, so you have the competition between Paulson Adebo and Alante Taylor, which I think is a great answer. One of those guys really settling in opposite of Lattimore would be huge. I think you could look at Trevor Penning at left tackle, but that's not where I'm going to go.
Line?
No, I'm not going to go offensive line. I could have. I think you could have done it for all 80 of these teams in some way.
Michael Thomas?
That's a great answer as well. There's just a lot of newness to this defensive line. Brian Brzee is a first-round pick. Nathan Shepard as a free agent signing. Shai Tuttle left. You don't have Marcus Davenport. You're kind of leaning more into Carl Granderson / Isaiah Foskey / Peyton Turner / Tanoa passing young, right? Like I think you need some of these guys to really emerge to feel like I feel like throughout the years with the Saints and as they transition away from Drew Brees and even at times when they had Drew Brees late, I always got a lot of comfort in the Saints because I thought they were good in the trenches. And I think they can be good in the trenches, but I think you have more unknowns on this defensive line than you've had in a number of years, especially with Cam Jordan maybe finally showing some signs of age a little bit last year. Mm-hmm. So my mind's here with the D-line here in New Orleans.
Anya Metagon too.
Yeah, another good name. Yeah, good pull.
So, yeah, that's the X factors for the South. AFC South, NFC South. Those are our thoughts on a couple unit discussions, but more so some individuals that are young players or players who have spent some time not fulfilling their potential and how they are going to be critical pieces for their respective teams to maximizing the potential of that team in 2023. Joe, tomorrow we're talking running back market.
Feels like a good time to do it.
Man, here's your sign, right? So you're going to want to go ahead and hit subscribe. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. We appreciate you guys who are locked in with us on a daily basis here on the Locked On Network. It is your teams every day. I'm Kyle Crabbs. He's Joe Marino. We're Locked On NFL Scouting. Make it a great rest of your Tuesday. We'll talk to you all again tomorrow. Peace.